Oh, you mean my favorite horror movie of all time? Hell yeah, let's do it. Psycho opens up introducing us to our main character, Marion Crane, and her boyfriend, Sam Loomis. So the two of them are in love, but they have to sneak around because Sam's going through a divorce. There's this alimony he has to pay, so he doesn't really have a lot of money. So Marion works for a real estate company, and her boss comes in with this super rich guy one day who is literally just waving cash in her face. And he's going to use this cash to buy a house for his daughter, so her boss gives it to Marion to go put in the bank. It's $40,000 cash, which is equivalent to over $400,000 today. Oh yeah, you guessed it. Instead of going to the bank, Marion goes home, packs her shit up, and sets off. So she's driving from Phoenix to where Sam lives in California, and she's just suspicious as fuck. She pulls her car over and falls asleep one night, and she gets awoken by this cop tapping on her window. She could not possibly be more suspicious. Like, this is obviously her first crime. Because this cop's now on her tail, she ends up switching cars, but it doesn't matter because he sees anyway. She starts to get tired while driving again, and instead of making the same mistake of sleeping on the side of the road, she decides to pull off the highway to this motel that she sees. Of course, this is the Bates Motel, and she meets the guy who runs it, Norman Bates. Marion signs in using a fake name, and Norman puts her in cabin number 1, which is right next door to the office. Then, since it's late and she's hungry, he invites her to come up to the house to have dinner with him and his mother. But as Marion is in her room unpacking, which includes hiding the money on the nightstand, she can hear Norman arguing with a woman from the house, and this woman is mad that he invited her over for dinner. So instead, he brings food down to the office and invites Marion in to eat with him there. So Norman begins to open up about his life and his mother, and he tells Marion that his father died when he was young, and eventually his mother got into a relationship with a new man who was the guy who got her to open this hotel, but eventually he died and she just couldn't take it. Norman was all she had left, and a boy's best friend is his mother. He basically tells Marion that his mother is unstable, so Marion suggests institutionalizing her, and Norman loses his fucking mind. That's where we get that iconic line where he's like, she's not crazy, she just goes a little mad sometimes. We all go a little mad sometimes. During this conversation, they also have a discussion about how people get stuck in traps that they sometimes set for themselves. And this kind of makes Marion realize, what the fuck am I doing? So she decides that the next morning, she's gonna drive back to Phoenix and give the money back. She goes back to her room and gets in the shower, and we see a shadowy figure entering the bathroom through the shower curtain. This is where we get one of the most iconic scenes in cinema, because this figure opens the curtain and proceeds to stab Marion to death in the shower. We hear Norman screaming to his mother saying, "What have you done?" And he runs into the room and finds Marion's dead body. But he cleans this up for his mother. He takes Marion's body, her belongings, and puts everything in the trunk of her car, including the stolen money, and he sinks her car in a nearby swamp. Some time passes, and we meet Marion's sister Lila, who at this point is understanding that her sister is missing. She goes to California to find Sam, where she tells him Marion's in trouble, she stole some money, and I can't find her, you must know where she is. But Sam has no idea, because he hasn't heard from her either. So at this point, they're confronted by this man named Arbogast, who is a private investigator that was hired to track down Marion and the money. He starts stopping at nearby motels to see if Marion spent the night at any of them, and sure enough, he ends up at the Bates Motel. So he starts to ask Norman some questions, but he keeps backtracking and just giving inconsistent answers, so Arbogast is suspicious. Now, Arbogast looks at the guest book and compares it to a handwriting sample of Marion's and discovers that she was there and she signed in using a fake name. And Norman is like, oh, I guess she was here, she must have spoken to my mother. Arbogast calls Lila and Sam and was like, she was at the Bates Motel, she spoke to his mother, I'm gonna go up there and try to speak to her right now. Norman refuses to allow Arbogast to talk to his mother, so Arbogast is like, okay, fuck you, my guy, and just walks right into the house. As he gets to the top of the stairs, this woman comes out of the bedroom and attacks him and stabs him to death. Hours go by, and Lila and Sam don't hear back from Arbogast, obviously because he's fucking dead. And Sam's like, fuck it, I'm going myself. Now, when he gets there, we see Norman avoiding him, acting like he can't hear him. But Sam looks at the house and can see a shadowy figure in the window, so we assume this is Norman's mother. So Sam goes back to Lila, and the two of them decide that they're going to go tell the local sheriff about what's been going on. And the sheriff knows Norman, so he calls him to ask what happened to Arbogast, and Norman's like, oh, I don't know, he left. Lila and Sam are like, no, something's wrong. He was supposed to be going to talk to Norman's mother. And the sheriff is like, you must be mistaken. Norma Bates has been dead for years. Not only that, but she died in a murder-suicide where she killed the boyfriend that Norman talked about and then took poison and killed herself. And Norman is the one that found the bodies. This sheriff just like simply doesn't care and he's like, oh, our big ass probably just moved on and followed a clue and didn't tell you guys. Lila and Sam, having no other choice, decide they're gonna go back to the hotel themselves. Now, Sam goes to distract Norman while Lila sneaks around back and sneaks up to the house. After a few minutes, Norman realizes what's happening and he knocks Sam out and runs up to the house. Meanwhile, Lila has made her way down to the fruit cellar where she sees a woman sitting with her back towards her. When she turns this woman around, she is very much not alive. It is the corpse of Norma Bates that Norman dug up. And then behind Lila, Norman comes in dressed as his mother and tries to attack her with a knife. But Sam comes to and subdues him before he can attack Lila. We cut to later at the police station. Norman has been apprehended. And a psychiatrist gives a profile. It turns out that Norma did not kill herself and her boyfriend. Norman killed them both out of jealousy that she had another man in her life. And because of the guilt, he stole his mom's corpse and lived in the house with her as if she was still alive and spoke to her as if she was still alive. But eventually, he took on her personality and he lost more of himself. Whenever Norman is attracted to a woman, the mother personality would take over and kill that woman, which is why Marion was killed. The psychiatrist tells them he's gone now. He is fully Norma. There is no Norman left. The final scene is Norman sitting by himself in a jail cell looking into the camera, and we get a voiceover of his mother's voice, which of course is in his head. Norma explains how the murders were her son's doing because I wouldn't even harm a fly. The final shot we get is of Marion's car being pulled from the swamp and the movie ends.